Hi, welcome guys. Basically, the last two MBTI I need to talk about is both like introverted intellectual. So yeah, basically like when we talk about intellectuals, like a lot of people would think about like the STJ type of people or the STP type of people because they think a lot as well, right? And somehow a little bit different because they think based on experience, but it's not something like imaginative or like expanding or like really like clear goal in the future. So kind of different. So they how they use the intellectual is kind like how they use the thinking itself is kind of different. So that's why they didn't being list down onto like the intellectual self is much more based onto the experience. Then they analyze the experience so heavily rely onto what they been through, and it's not something like an intellectual do, which coming out of like nothing or like a few pieces, then they can just structurize the whole thing. Yeah, kind of different. If you try to analyze like NT type of people, yeah, ENTJ good at structuring the whole thing. ENTP, they will just start to think about all kind of ideas. And INTP, today we are going to talk about INTP more. And tomorrow is the last one, and we're going to talk about the INTJ. After that, I will just introduce some a little bit pairing system. I mean, it's much more like a compatible system that actually people are doing it naturally, but at the same time, we are afraid to to admit, especially in in our movement. A lot of time when they feel love, they just feel that okay, I just affectionate onto that moment, and not because of like the differences between our characteristics that make us attracted onto it, and what is the reason. And for them, like they don't want to just go deeper because they feel that it's really fragile for them to look into them, and the first feeling they come onto them is always like bad. So that's why a lot of time they just have this kind of feeling. Yeah, but we'll try to talk about INTP, focusing onto the INTP today. So basically INTP, yeah, if you look at INTP for the people around you, okay, they are rare. Firstly, they are very rare. Secondly, they like to talk, but when they talk, like when they talk, they are much more like telling you a story. Firstly, and secondly is that they are much more analytical way and trying to look all the possible ways or like even emotionally, yeah. And they will just try to say much more like, oh, is it because of this reason? Is it because of that reason? And making you feel this way and that way. Yeah. To be honest, INTP, hmm, very interesting for me. Yeah. So that's why it was being listed as my natural pair. But somehow, yeah, I got a golden pair. Hey, yeah. But it's kind of different way of like affectionations like between it. Yeah. Also, yeah, it's like a very interesting. And yeah, let's talk about like their functions onto it. Yeah, INTP, sorry, because like your function, the first thing always come onto the TI hero, and the TI basically is the dumbest thing that I can ever discuss about for me. Yeah. I ESFP, so if you look back to the ESFP video, basically you really know what I'm talking about. The ignorant function for me is TI. So basically introverted thinking. So introverted thinking, when you try to understand what is inside here, is basically trying to talk about like my thinking, which mostly my thinking is based on like the experience or somebody told me about this, somebody told me about that. So it's not something like a truly my thinking, but that's much more like other people inserted onto me. Then after that, I use those informations. Then only then I can get onto like a system onto it. Yeah. So for the TI, introverted thinking itself, they're always trying to focusing. They can't help, yeah. For the judgment function as the main pillar sites, there's the judgment function. They can't help, and whenever they want to go back to their ego, it just letting them to judge. Yeah, just let them to judge. They were just always doing judging, and if you don't let them to judge intellectually and only go to emotionally, then they need to switch into another state which make them fragile as well or like unstable. So uh, uh, something similar, like if we go on to like a we say perceiving function as the main pillar, is that we don't choose how we trying to perceive informations. And if other people is asking us to perceive the information in a different way, will feel difficult. Yeah, just the same type of like way of interaction in a sense. Yeah, so for INTP to get onto their ego, they can't help. They will just judge based on their thinking. It is not always like a on a moral value onto something. No, it's just like their thinking. So their thinking maybe come from experience. Maybe they come from their thinking, like a part of the system suddenly come into it and their understanding onto it. So the whole thing for explanation is a very long line, and they will try to talk about like all kind of reasons, like for the T type of people is that okay because of this and this. For TI type of people, like, and going a far away, then suddenly a loophole, then coming here and and go to the end, and actually they didn't reach the end, and they will just expand another a whole new dimension right there. Yeah, basically that's what happened for the TI type of people. Yeah, and especially TI heroes. Yeah. But how INTP is trying to understand the world is kind of different from our ISTP, which they start with the extroverted intuition. So I already say, first, this like a creativity. Secondly, is that they're trying to study other people's pattern, and the pattern itself sometimes it just give them some intellectual informations, so they were just trying to understand that okay because this happens, or maybe it means that it just making their life much more difficult, or means that somebody is not really liking each other, like something like this. So with all this kind of information and humans people's pattern, okay when I do this they don't like it, when I apply this they will be suddenly being rejected. There was this kind of like pattern that how they react onto me. Okay, I knew it. Then because of they knew it, or like they treat it as a truth or false, then they would just use it as much more like a go back to their judgment. That's for the parents function. Then we go to the child function. The child function is being the same. Yeah. So basically, like as a function, introverted sensing function already come to the child function itself. So sometimes for INTP, they can just sacrifice their like we say coziness, but they like it. So they will create their own cozy way to adapt onto the surroundings, but doesn't mean that they are really like good at creating onto it. Is that from time to time they have some idea, maybe sometimes no, then they need someone, maybe they know. They don't really need it. So that's how like the introverted sensing, that's how they perceiving the functions, that what they like, what they don't. Yeah, and because they are really got into like, let's come back here, they are really get into like an introverted thinking. So always they are trying to find like the okay, I like this, I don't like this, and is it true or false? And when I'm sad, please let me do this, please let me do that. It's much more like they are trying to talk about like their whole experience and how they know how to heal themselves in a sense. And sometimes, yeah, some much more second INTP might just get into a situation that they would just ruin themselves, or like in a sense ruin themselves, or like just keep on playing game, get onto the dopamine boost all the time, like boom 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 all the time, and don't care about consequences that might happen at all. So yeah, the INTP. And the fourth function, the fifth function is the extroverted feeling. So extroverted feeling. So as I say, it's a passive function right here, and at the same time is that you need it, but at the same time you can't control it. So basically, everybody when they trying to engage into them as the INTP, they can't help. They need to give emotional support onto it. Did they learn it? Somehow, maybe. But as somehow much more like they need to react onto it. So they need to learn the process. Like, okay, when everybody happy, how should I make everyone looks like happy? At least me looking happy for that. Yeah. And is it that truly they can feel everything? Sometimes they can feel everything. Sometimes they can't. And like the FA type of people, yeah, there is something like a really interesting for them is that they have the ability to just recall their memory, and they will just, okay, if I want to be happy, I will just think about the happy occasion that I had in the past. If I want to pretend to be sad, I will just, and I want some tears, then I will just think about the sad thing I had in the past. Yeah, they have that ability. For me, yes, I think no, no, no way. Yeah. So basically, the fear right here. But what does it mean fear right here is that, okay, if somebody trying to get into like a, okay, they are trying to please people right here, like they are really happy, so they want to make the whole situation like happy. But if people are not trying to engage into it, then at the same time, like trying to deny her emotional expression, yeah, is something what they fear. Then suddenly they will be like, okay, I judged the wrong thing. I give a wrong like understanding onto the situation. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't study it right. Yeah, and coming back to the judgment again. Next, let's go to the shadow function. So the first one, extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinking, it means that in the shadow, it means that they are not really happy to learn. They understand what it means. They like to think a lot. They obtain a lot of like a knowledge right here. But when you are trying to tell them to learn everything, and through other people's opinion, through other people's theory, through other things, like even on textbook, on everything, basically you are just asking them, yeah, shut up your brain and trying to learn onto something. So basically for the ESFP way of understanding is that, okay, if I want to do onto something, like extroverted sensing is like my main key. When I want to do something and suddenly somebody told me to stop, don't perform anything, you just go back and you sit back and you just look onto it. Can I do it? Yes. Can I experience something? Yes. But at the same time, it feels sucks. It just feels sucks. So doing the same, it is the same thing for the INTP. They are always like using their own way of thinking and judgment to do onto like a certain way of like understanding. But when somebody asking them to listen, to learn a new way of like a judgment and stuff, can they obtain it? Yes. But at the same time, it's so difficult for them, and like it just feels sucks for them to having it. Yes. And next, let's look at the critics. The critics, same as INFP, INTP, critics is introverted intuition. So what does it mean? It just means that they need a purpose every time. Why I come here and what's my purpose, and if this is this purpose serve me or not, is this action itself serve me or not, is this kind of thinking serving me or not, is this kind of like a way of like a expansion of my thinking itself, the creativity expansion itself, is it serving me or not? If it is not, yeah, it will be a little bit much more crisis onto them. Yeah, like they will just suddenly feel that they are lost. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people when they come to critics, oh, it's the same thing, but just that a lot of people didn't realize how much actually the critics is mean to the people. Yeah, so always for me, when I try to understand other people, I will just try to go to the critics as well. I will be like, okay, so what kind of things that you're much more afraid of, like a judgment or the way that you understand things? Yeah, basically it just very quickly, yeah, to determine that are they introvert or extrovert, to be honest. So because you see, if you're introvert right here on critics, it just basically means that your hero is also introvert. So it's a very quick way onto it. And it's much more like if here is like a positive function, so here is like a judgment function, and vice versa, here is like a judgment function, here is the positive function. Yeah, it's much more easy since it's a new type of question, so people will just much more trying to think more, and it's not like just on the 16 personality, which is a false MBTI. It's not even MBTI. It's a big five system. Yeah, but they're using MBTI way of naming. To be honest, I just hope that they just quit it. They just use their own way of like naming it. But yeah, what can I say? There are a company who want to just promote their own way of understanding onto it. It's not accurate, but somehow it just it just works. Yep. And next thing, let's go on to the ignorant function for the INTP SE. So extroverted sensing, what does it mean? Performance. So they don't know how to perform. If they don't learn, they don't perform. So in a sense, they would just call them the untalented, maybe. Yeah, but somehow they have a way to make themselves much more like a talented or something, that through their introverted sensing they're trying to create a discipline and like a routine for them to just keep on going onto it, and yeah, without failing. And that's how like INTP way of like trying to cover it up. At the same time, like the apparent function itself is always like expanding. So the expansion itself, they will also like expand on to them side as well. Like, okay, what's my reaction and what should I supposed to do? What's my intention all the time? And they will, with their judgment as a hero, they will just trying to cover like whatever like the performance can't really do. So either they admit it or they will find a way to do it. Yeah, or find someone else together and make it happen. And the last one is the demonic function, which is the introverted feeling for INTP. So basically, right here, it means that and it's kind of different from INFP, because INFP, when they facing this kind of issue, when they facing their TI demon, they are trying to be proving here and there. And for the INTP, like finally they can feel like a very strong rage that is called emotion in their heart. It's immature, but it's a very strong rage onto it. And because of the rage in it, so they just suddenly feel everything so overwhelming. So yeah, that's how it being formed somehow for INTP. Okay, let's try to see the optimistic functions and the pessimistic ones. So the optimistic function basically draw a line, the upward, everything upward, and it's the introverted thinking and the introverted sensing. So the introverted thinking and introverted sensing, I already say they have a certain way of thinking, they have a certain way of like a judgment, and because they're so happy to think everything within them, within their brain, within their world, so they were just trying to do it all the time, and because of the judgment itself, and somehow they will try to protect, and they will just overgo going and didn't realize how the outside world is being understood. So always they need the parents function right here to make a control, so they don't do whatever like a thinking without any improvements. Yeah, so extroverted intuition, trying to be the parents to hold back, especially introverted sensing. Right here, the function like trying to not getting in like a too much onto just yourself being selfish and only self awareness right there. And the extroverted feeling is much more like the proof in the end everything is being working. If not, then yep, then more judgment coming to them. Yeah, so basically, I'll just try to go through very quickly, like introverted, not introverted. I mean the INTP, like the grouping of themselves. So basically, just now I already mentioned about it. It's intellectual, intellectual. They are really abstract. Abstract. It means that you just need a few information, basically, and it doesn't need everything. It just need few informations. Pragmatic. Pragmatic basically it means that they are trying to make it realistic. Yes, and systematic. Systematic itself, it means that they have the whole system. They know how to make it into like the whole process, like how it starts, and after that how you gonna do inside everybody, what they gonna fail maybe, and how they gonna perform. and in the end, what kind of outcome what I want it happen, and how we should just make it into a process and making everything nice. Yeah, that's basically like we say the intellectual type of people. And then let's try to see the communication type for INTP. Basically, they are not finishing. A lot of people might think, oh, finishing, but actually they are not. What they are the background. So the intellectual background and the background, they are informative. They will just tell you a lot of like information that they know, what they think. So if you're asking them to tell story, they are good with it. They have a lot of details and they will do their imaginations perfectly. Just let them do it. Then after that, it's responding. Responding why? Because you need to ask them questions, and the questions itself, you can make it structured questions, and they will just answer with their introverted thinking way, which making a whole big story that linking everything all together. Yeah, and that's the interesting part for the INTP. And control itself. Yeah, I just imagine for those people who have a very good talent onto like a story. Control itself, it means a girl. For a girl, for you to convey a story. Yeah, basically, yeah, that's the thing for INTP. Yeah, basically that's it. And hope you all just enjoy it. Yeah, the next one is basically INTJ is the last one. Yeah, hope you all just enjoy it. And next we'll just talk about the compatibilities. Anyway, see you. Peace.